Preposterous, Professor Zandra shouted, slamming his three-fingered hand onto the hovering control panel, sending the holographic image of Earth wobbling in midair. These calculations must be flawed. Run them again. The Grand Chamber of the High Council of Galactic Research, with its towering crystal spires and quantum-powered interfaces, fell into an eerie silence. Every member of the 13 Species Council turned their unique sensory organs toward the usually composed professor. His phosphorescent skin flashed an agitated orange, a clear sign of his mounting frustration. "Professor," came a hesitant voice from Research Assistant Bloom 3, her tentacles nervously curling around her datapad. "We've recalculated this 157 times. The results are consistent. The humans of Earth have zero chance of surviving the next galactic standard year." Director Quill 8 leaned forward in his gravity-defying chair, his crystalline exoskeleton reflecting the light of 3 visible suns above. "Zandra, my old friend, why does this particular species concern you so much? We observe the extinction of primitive civilizations daily. It's simply the way of the universe." Zandra's skin shifted to a deep purple of professional indignation. "Because they keep surviving. Just yesterday, our models predicted they would annihilate themselves in a nuclear war. Instead, they hosted a global peace conference last week. We projected their extinction due to climate collapse, and what do? They invent new atmospheric purification technology. Perhaps, suggested Council Member N Delta, her plasma-based form rippling with amusement. Our models are in need of recalibration. The models, Zandra emphasized with exaggerated precision, are flawless. They have accurately predicted the fall of 47,923 civilizations. No, the problem lies with these humans. They're not playing by the rules of societal evolution. Bloom 3's datapad beeped. "Professor, new data incoming. The humans just survived yet another extinction-level event. They managed to divert an asteroid that we were certain would destroy their planet." "How?" Zandra demanded, his skin cycling through colors more rapidly than a malfunctioning quantum processor. "How did they do it?" Bloom 3 hesitated. "They turned the asteroid into a solar-powered space station." The chamber erupted into a cacophony of murmurs. Director Quill's crystalline form vibrated with concern. "Zandra, I am authorizing a full investigation. If these humans are defying our models, we need to understand why. The very integrity of our scientific predictions is in question." Zandra straightened his ceremonial robes, his skin now a steady shade of determined blue. "Thank you, Director. I intend to prove that this is simply a statistical anomaly. These humans are primitive beings who have no understanding of quantum mechanics. They still think dark matter is a mystery. Once we document their extinction, balance will be restored." He turned toward Bloom 3. "Prepare the observation vessels. We are going to study these humans up close, and this time we will prove what every scientific model in the galaxy already confirms. Their survival is utterly impossible." Poor Professor Zandra had no idea he was about to become the punchline of the galactic scientific community. But then again, humans have a way of making overly confident alien researchers look foolish. Observation log, Earth Solar Cycle 2024, Cloaked Research Vessel, Probability Prime. Chief Observer, Professor Zandra. "Professor, you really need to see this," junior researcher Vix 427 called excitedly, her bioluminescent antenna twitching. Vix, the newest recruit from the Galactic Academy of Statistical Certainties, had already shown an unnerving enthusiasm for their research subjects. Zandra glided across the observation deck, his hover pads humming softly. "What is it now?" 427. "More evidence of their rudimentary technology." "No, sir. They're doing something again that our model said was absolutely impossible." Vix gestured toward her monitor, displaying a human settlement in what they called Las Vegas, a city that, according to every environmental model, should have collapsed due to resource depletion long ago. They're cultivating food in vertical towers right in the middle of a desert. And look, they're using revenue from entertainment to fund water harvesting from the atmosphere. It doesn't make any sense. Zandra's skin flashed with irritated red streaks. "Nonsense. Our models clearly predict that desert cities must be abandoned once groundwater supplies run dry. These humans must be cheating." Bloom 3, the research assistant, floated over, multitasking with ease through multiple data streams. "Actually, Professor, I've been gathering data that suggests humans tend to thrive exactly when our models predict their extinction. Like when that supervolcano showed signs of eruption." "Don't remind me," Zandra snapped. "Instead of evacuating the continent like any rational species, they built a geothermal energy system around it. This is a direct violation of protocol." "Professor," Vix 427 interjected, her antenna nearly tied in knots with excitement. it. I have a theory. What if humans actually grow stronger because of these challenges, not despite them? A stunned silence fell over the observation deck. Even the quantum computers seemed to pause in disbelief. That's preposterous, Xandra declared. Next, you'll tell me their outdated combustion engines are somehow better than our gravity drives. Well, Bloom 3 hesitated. They've just developed something called carbon capture fuel cells that allow their vehicles to clean the atmosphere while running. Our models indicated that kind of technology was at least 500 years beyond their reach. Xandra started pacing, his hover pads leaving a trail of frustrated energy in the air. Look at the facts. Their political systems are chaotic, their economies run on something called memes, and they can't even agree on whether their furry companions are cats who rule over them or pets they control. They aren't advanced enough to survive, Professor Vix427 said, pulling up a new data stream. They've done it again. They've turned another global crisis into a chance to advance. Remember the massive space debris field we thought would obliterate their primitive satellites? Of course, Xandra snapped, his agitation growing. The models gave them a 0.00001% chance of maintaining their communication networks. They built something called a debris collection and recycling station. Now, they're using the salvaged materials to create more satellites. At this rate, they could have a fully operational orbital manufacturing network in just 5 years. Xandra's skin shifted to a sickly shade of disbelief. But this isn't how technological progress is supposed to unfold. Species must follow the natural progression of scientific development. You can't just leap ahead because you're too obstinate to perish. Sum 3, a voice interrupted, all of her tentacles suddenly rigid with alarm. Long-range sensors have detected something unprecedented. The humans are. Spit it out, Xandra barked. They're developing faster than light travel, but they're doing it all wrong. They're disregarding the standard theory of quantum improbability drives. According to our models, their method has a negative probability of success. Vix427, Xena chimed in, her voice sharp. Isn't negative probability impossible? Exactly, Xandra roared. Which means they must fail. Focus all sensors on their research facilities. This time, we'll witness their first true civilization-ending disaster. Emergency session, High Council of Galactic Research, the human problem. Status, maximum security clearance, ***. Director Quill's crystalline form vibrated with barely contained agitation as he addressed the council. Esteemed colleagues, we are facing an unprecedented crisis. These humans are not just surviving, they are thriving. And worse, they are doing it all wrong. Admiral Rixon 9 stepped forward, her battle-scarred exoskeleton gleaming under the council chamber's lights. The youngest admiral in the history of the Galactic Defense Forces, she was known for solving problems permanently. Honorable Council, she said, mandibles clicking with military precision, I propose we stop observing and start taking action. These humans need testing, rigorous, controlled testing. Professor Xandra, Director Quill turned his attention to the professor, his voice laced with intrigue. What exactly are you suggesting, Admiral? A series of challenges, carefully engineered scenarios that no primitive species could possibly survive. We'll prove once and for all that our models are accurate. Admiral Rixa's secondary arms projected a holographic display. I've already prepared several simulations, each with a calculated survival probability of 0. Vix427 whispered to Bloom 3 from their observation station. Doesn't she realize that's exactly what got us into this mess? Scenario 1, Admiral Rixa continued, either unaware or deliberately ignoring the junior researcher's comment. We introduce a quantum virus into their computer networks. According to every model, their primitive binary systems will collapse in mere hours. Director Quill 8's crystalline segments shifted thoughtfully. And if they survive? Impossible, the Admiral scoffed. But in the unlikely scenario that they do survive, we proceed to Phase 2, destabilize the orbit of their moon. Even if they somehow manage to survive the collapse of their networks, they won't have the technological capability to counter astronomical engineering at their level. Professor Xandra's skin deepened to a rich blue, the color of intense scientific curiosity. And do you have the necessary resources to carry out these tests? The Galactic Defense Force stands ready, Admiral Rixon 9 confirmed with unwavering resolve. We've positioned our fleet just beyond their detection range. Not that their rudimentary sensors could detect our quantum-cloaked ships anyway. anyway. VIX 427 raised a hesitant antenna. Question. Isn't this a breach of the non-interference protocol? The Admiral's mandibles clicked dismissively. This isn't interference, young researcher. This is science. We're merely setting up controlled conditions to validate our models, Professor Zandra explained. What do you think? Zandra hovered thoughtfully for a moment. Our passive observations have yielded frustratingly inconclusive results. Perhaps a more direct approach is needed. Excellent, Admiral Rixon 9 responded. Her secondary arms swiftly inputted commands into her tactical display. I've also prepared phases 3 through 7, including artificial solar flares, controlled asteroid impacts, and my personal favorite, introducing their populations to advanced mathematics before they're ready. That one has a 400% probability of societal collapse. How can anything have a 400% probability? Bloom 3 muttered, her tentacles twisting in mathematical protest. The fleet is already in position, the Admiral continued. Our ships are equipped with the latest quantum probability generators. These devices will ensure that the humans face truly impossible scenarios. No tricks, no statistical anomalies, just pure, undeniable proof that our models are correct. Director Quill 8 vibrated at a decision-making frequency. Very well, but I want it noted in the official record that this is purely a scientific undertaking. We are not attacking the humans. We are assisting them in fulfilling their statistical destiny. Of course, Director Admiral Rixon 9 responded, her mandibles forming what passed for a smile in her species. Now, if you'll excuse me, I must brief the fleet. The quantum virus will be ready for deployment in exactly 6 galactic standard hours. We'll finally have definitive proof that humans are as fragile as our models predict. As the Admiral left, VIX 427 noticed something unsettling on her monitoring station. Professor Zandra, you might want to see this. The humans, they're holding a global cybersecurity competition today, a hackathon, right where we plan to release the quantum virus. Impossible. The timing was flawless. This must be a coincidence, Zandra said, his skin flashing with disbelief. Sir, should we warn the Admiral? VIX 427 asked, a trace of concern in her voice. Zandra's skin shifted through a spectrum of unprecedented colors. No, I'm sure it's fine. The probability of them detecting, let alone stopping, a quantum virus it's the same as all our other predictions about them. Bloom 3 offered helpfully, I'll monitor the situation, Professor. Zandra's skin settled into a resigned gray. Just keep an eye on it and have someone check how many of our ships have manual control backups. I have a feeling we might need them, somewhere in the vast reaches of space. Admiral Rixon 9's fleet remained poised in silence, weapons primed, quantum probability generators humming. They were about to learn a valuable lesson about humans and impossible situations. Unfortunately for the Admiral's carefully laid plans, humans had a curious tendency to treat impossible as more of a suggestion than a rule, and they were about to suggest some very improbable things indeed. Observation vessel, probability prime, time since operation began, 72 Earth hours. Status, total chaos, asterisk. No. Professor Zandra's skin flashed through colors so rapidly that Bloom 3 had to recalibrate the ship's optical sensors. They can't just do this. It's not possible. It's not in any of our models. The observation deck's main screen displayed the aftermath of their first test. The quantum virus, designed to be undetectable and unstoppable, had been not only detected but transformed. Somehow, the humans had converted it into something they called a quantum encryption protocol and were now using it to secure their networks. Professor VIX 427 reported, her antenna twitching in astonishment, the global hackathon. They're calling it the most successful cybersecurity event in history. They believe the virus was a test program from their own scientists. But that's not even the worst part. Bloom 3 added, her tentacles whirring as they handled multiple data streams. They're trading the technology among themselves using something called cryptocurrency, which, according to our models, is mathematically impossible. Admiral Rixon 9's holographic form appeared, her mandibles clicking in frustration. No matter. Initiating phase 2. The moon's orbit is already beginning to shift. Let's see them handle astronomical engineering with their primitive technology. 3 Earth days later. What are they doing with their satellites? Admiral Rixon 9's hologram sputtered in disbelief. According to these readings, VIX 427 said, checking her instruments again, they've networked their entire global satellite system into a kind of gravitational web. They're using it to stabilize the moon's orbit by adjusting gravity beams. But they don't have gravity manipulation technology. Zandra protested, his hover pads sparking with agitation. They didn't. Bloom 3 corrected. Apparently, someone named Jessica Rodriguez figured it out during her lunch break. She was trying to figure out how to keep her sandwich sandwich from floating away on the space station. A sandwich? Admiral Ruksa 9's mandibles froze in shock. They developed gravity manipulation technology because of a sandwich? Oh, it gets better. VIX 427 continued, her antenna practically vibrating with excitement. They're calling it the Great Space Tidy-Up. They're using the same technology to clean up all their space debris, stabilize their planet's rotation, and, sir, they're planning to adjust their orbit slightly to optimize their solar energy collection. Xandra's skin shifted to a shade of disbelief so intense that it defied xenobiological classification. Impossible. The mathematical calculations needed to adjust a planet's orbit are beyond. They're using something called open-source software and cloud computing. Bloom 3 interrupted. Apparently, millions of their personal devices are working together to solve the equations. They've turned it into a game. Players earn points for solving gravitational math problems. Admiral Ruksa 9's hologram buzzed with urgency. Launch the solar flares, she commanded, her voice trembling with determination. 1 Earth week later, the observation deck was unnervingly quiet, the only sound coming from Professor Xandra, who was repeatedly banging his head against a data panel. So, VIX 427 summarized, her antenna twitching with disbelief. Not only did they detect the artificial solar flares, but they've created a planetary shield network using their new gravity manipulation technology. They're capturing the excess solar energy and using it for something called global air conditioning. And, she continued, are they really using the leftover energy to make something called ice cream for everyone on their planet? A human broadcast echoed through their monitors, courtesy of the unexpected solar surplus. And don't forget to download the new Solar Shield mobile game. Help protect Earth and earn points toward your next Sunday. That's it. Xandra suddenly straightened, his skin pulsing with manic energy. I see it now. Their behavioral patterns, their solutions, they're not random at all. Sublo 3, tentacles twitching nervously, asked, they're having fun? Professor Xandra began pacing midair, his hover pads emitting sparks of agitation. Every crisis, every impossible scenario, they treat them all as some form of entertainment. No species has ever survived by treating their problems like a game. Admiral Ruksa 9's hologram appeared once again, though she looked significantly less composed. Her once pristine military uniform was now disheveled. The asteroid field is ready. It's our largest test yet. The impact probability is calculated at, let me guess, VIX 427 interrupted, her antenna drooping with resignation. 0% chance of survival? Exactly, Admiral Ruksa 9's mandibles clicked with satisfaction. No primitive species could possibly. Sublo 3's tentacles suddenly froze in shock. The humans are broadcasting something on all frequencies. They're calling it the first interplanetary asteroid baseball league. The entire observation deck fell into stunned silence as they watched humanity prepare to turn their greatest crisis yet into a sport. Professor Xandra's skin shifted to a shade that could only be described as academic surrender. Someone, he muttered quietly, please tell me we have a backup plan that doesn't involve giving humans more chances to turn physics into a game. The silence was broken only by the distant sound of human cheering as they prepared to literally play baseball with asteroids. The universe, it seemed, had a sense of humor. Unfortunately for the Galactic Council, humanity got the joke. Emergency council session, status. Complete pandemonium. Note, several council members have started stress molting. Admiral Ruksa 9's hologram flickered erratically, the visual distortion caused by what her medical team referred to as probability-induced stress disorder. We have no choice, she continued, her voice now tinged with panic. We must initiate the Omega Protocol. Director Quil 8's crystalline form vibrated with tension, his structure showing signs of nervous fractures. Admiral, the Omega Protocol was never meant to be used in real scenarios. Theoretical scenarios are all we have left, the Admiral shrieked, her mandibles clicking uncontrollably. The humans have turned every single crisis into an opportunity. They're holding Asteroid Baseball Olympics next month. Professor Xandra, his skin now a jumbled mix of confusion and defeat, spoke up. Perhaps we should consider the possibility that our models release the quantum anomaly. Admiral Ruksa 9 commanded, her hologram disappearing in a burst of static, the final words trailing off into silence. VIX 427 watched in horror as the fleet deployed their final weapon, a controlled quantum anomaly designed to alter the fundamental constants of physics within Earth's solar system. According to every calculation, every model, every shred of scientific knowledge, it would make survival utterly impossible. Professor, she said quietly, her antenna drooping with worry, should we warn them? It wouldn't matter, Xandra replied, his hover pads barely functioning. No species can survive in a region where the laws of physics randomly change every few minutes. It's over. Finally, the humans will have to accept accept their statistical destiny. But as the quantum anomaly spread across Earth's solar system, something unexpected happened again. Sublo 3's tentacles were trembling as she read the incoming data. The humans they're adapting, VIX 427 added, her antenna now standing straight up in amazement. Their scientists are already publishing papers on what they're calling dynamic physics surfing. They're treating the quantum fluctuations like some sort of cosmic wave pool. That's not the worst part, VIX 427 continued. They're using the random physics changes to power something called quantum randomness generators for their video games. They're saying it makes the graphics more realistic. Professor Zandra's skin turned completely transparent, a sign of total academic surrender. They're using our ultimate weapon to improve their entertainment systems? So, Bloom 3 suddenly shouted, human ships detected. They're leaving their solar system. The quantum anomaly taught them how to surf probability waves through space. Through the observation window, they watched as hundreds of human vessels rode the quantum fluctuations like cosmic surfers, spreading out across the galaxy. Each ship's hull was painted with different sports team logos and sponsored by various ice cream companies. I have to admit, VIX 427 whispered to Bloom 3, they do make survival look fun. The entire council chamber erupted into chaos. Director Quill 8's crystalline form shattered entirely. He would later reform, but with a newfound appreciation for ice cream. Admiral Rixah 9's hologram finally gave up and displayed a quantum error 4004 message. And Professor Zandra started laughing. It began as a small chuckle, grew into a giggle, and finally exploded into full-blown skin color strobing hysteria. Don't you see? He gasped between laughs. We were right all along. The probability of their survival was 0%. VIX 427 asked, concerned for her mentor's sanity, but we forgot to carry the funds? Zandra was now spinning in midair. They survived precisely because it was impossible. The more impossible we made it, the more they enjoyed figuring it out. As if to prove his point, a human ship zoomed past their observation window, its crew waving cheerfully. A banner on its hull read, thanks for the physics lessons. Want to join our quantum surfing league? VIX 427 looked at the invitation, then at her frazzled superior officers, and made a decision. Professor, I request permission to establish first official contact and maybe sign up for their next baseball season. Zandra's skin finally settled into a peaceful shade of acceptance. Why not? After all, according to our models, the probability of us becoming good at human sports is absolutely zero, and everyone knew what that meant when humans were involved. Location * Earth's first intergalactic ice cream parlor time * 6 months. After the failed Omega Protocol status * brain freezes. Multiple species. Professor Zandra sat in a hover chair, staring thoughtfully at a bowl of something called Rocky Road while his skin cycled through various shades of blue. Across the table, VIX 427 was on her fourth quantum ripple sundae, a human invention that changed flavors based on probability fluctuations. You know what our biggest mistake was? Zandra asked, finally tasting his ice cream. His skin immediately turned pink with pleasure. We kept trying to put humans in boxes, statistical boxes. Exactly, Bloom 3 chimed in from her specialized tentacle-friendly booth, where she was experimenting with something called a banana split. The professor's hover chair bobbed with excitement. Every model, every prediction, every test, we were trying to force them to behave according to our understanding of the universe. But humans color outside the lines. VIX 427, her antenna sticky with ice cream, added, they don't just think outside the box. They take the box apart, rebuild it into something new, and then sell box transformation kits to their neighbors. Through the parlor's quantum-reinforced windows, they could see the newly established Galactic sports complex, where humans were teaching various alien species how to play baseball with asteroids. Admiral Rixah 9, who had finally recovered from her probability-induced breakdown, was proving surprisingly good at pitching. Did you see their latest innovation? Bloom 3 asked, her tentacles gesturing at a passing advertisement. They've turned our quantum probability generators into personal transportation devices. They're calling them probability scooters, guaranteed to get you somewhere interesting, even if it wasn't where you planned to go. Professor Zandra's skin rippled with amused acceptance. You know what the real revelation is? Our models weren't wrong. We were just asking the wrong questions. We kept calculating the probability of humans surviving impossible situations. We should have been calculating the probability of them turning those situations into opportunities. And what would that probability be? Professor VIX 427 asked, starting on her fifth Sunday. Based on current data, Zandra grinned, a very human expression he'd recently learned, approximately 100%. The more impossible the situation, the more likely they are to not just survive it but somehow profit profit from it. Did you know they're selling tickets to watch the quantum anomaly waves? They've turned it into a tourist attraction. Director Quill 8 floated in his crystalline form, now decorated with sports team stickers that humans had introduced. Professor, the Council has reviewed your latest report on human probability mechanics. They want to know if you need any additional research funding. Oh, I've given up trying to predict human behavior, Xandra replied, sampling something called a hot fudge sundae instead and watching how they continue to prove our predictions wrong. It's much more productive and significantly more fun. Don't forget about the ice cream, Bloom 3 added, her tentacles expertly managing a 12-scoop probability cone. Admiral Rixon 9, whose military fleet had been transformed into the galaxy's largest sports equipment provider, stood at attention. I move that we officially recognize humans as the galaxy's experts in impossible situations. All those in favor, the vote was unanimous, mainly because everyone was eager to get to the celebration party afterward. Humans, it turned out, were really good at those two. There is one small concern, Director Quill 8 vibrated nervously. Now that we've officially accepted humans into the galactic community, what do we do about the fact that they're starting to teach other species their methods? As if on cue, a junior researcher burst into the chamber. Sir, the Zorians have just turned their entire solar system into something called a cosmic theme park using human probability surfing techniques. Professor Xandra's skin flickered with amusement. You know what the real irony is? According to our original models, the probability of humans influencing galactic culture this extensively was, let me guess, Vix 427 grinned. 0%? Exactly, Xandra said. And now look at us. We're all wearing probability surfing jerseys and eating ice cream that exists in multiple quantum states simultaneously. The council chamber erupted in laughter, a sound that would have been unthinkable a decade ago. As the meeting concluded, Professor Xandra made one final entry in his research log. Final conclusion: humanity's greatest achievement isn't surviving impossible odds. It's teaching the rest of us that impossible odds are just the universe's way of suggesting it's time to have some fun ****. End report EPS. The humans have just announced they're organizing the first intergalactic probability surfing championship. They've asked me to be a judge. According to every statistical model I have, 0 chance of being good at it. I've already signed up ***EPS. They're serving something called quantum uncertainty sundaes at the event. The flavor is impossible to predict until you taste it. Somehow that feels appropriate. As the council members filed out, heading toward the newest ice cream parlor, a message flashed across the galactic news networks. Breaking. Humans discover way to surf between parallel universes. New extreme sport already has waiting list. Ice cream vendors preparing for multidimensional expansion. Professor Xandra's skin turned that special shade of happy resignation again. Some things never changed, and thanks to humanity's infectious enthusiasm for the impossible, that was probably the best news the galaxy had ever received. After all, what fun would the universe be if everything was predictable? Probability of story being accurate, 0%. Probability of humans proving this wrong, 100%.